Good morning and welcome to the 2024 El Dorado Holiday Tournament Preview Show right here on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROY, AM 1460, and online worldwide at WRUL.com. Cole Carter with you. Haley Winkleman across the hallway getting us on the air, being joined by Travis Black and Roger Hobbs as we are getting you set for 3 straight days of the biggest basketball tournament in Southern Illinois next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And all 26 games will be available for listening and viewing on 97.3 WRUL and the WRUL Sports YouTube channel. Guys, best time of the year. Obviously love Christmas time, but you can't have Christmas without the EHT, and it's here. It feels like it's crazy that it's already Christmas time, but ready for some EHT basketball.
Just like homecoming at church. You know, you get to see people you haven't seen all year, and just a great time to get together and see a lot of good basketball.
Yeah, it's one of the best, and if not the best tournament in the whole state of Illinois, and it's been around for 60 years now, and it's still one of the best times to be alive, to be able to go watch some good EHT basketball.
What was the saying that I made fun of you for last year?
What?
Southern Illinois gets to rockin' when the EHT comes to knocking.
Yeah,
I'm never going to let you let that one down.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That's good.
All right, well, let's go ahead and break down all 16 teams in the tournament this year. The seeds came out last Wednesday, as did the bracket. It's always interesting to see what happens between the first game tipping off and when the seeds come out, because I bet if you were to read seed things today, might be a little bit different. But the Heron Tigers, once again, for the 4th time in the last 5 years, they get the number 1 seed. And I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical of that until last night when I saw they defeated a really good Murfreesboro team. You know, one thing about Sailor Shirts' crew, they can graduate whoever they want to graduate. They're still going to be right there with everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, they've got some kid named Tyrese Lukens back from last year. He was a 1,000-point scorer. And what surprises me about Heron, they lost 4 starters, but they got 2 kids back that didn't play last year. Plus, they got a transfer, and they come in at 7-1, and their only loss was to Sparta in that DuQuoin tournament.
Yeah, teams like Heron don't rebuild; they reload, and that just shows you the amount of talent in that area of Southern Illinois. And it seems like every year, it doesn't matter how many they graduate, they're going to be competitive and they're going to be a good basketball team. And Tyrese Lukens is one of the best players in Southern Illinois. He can score with the best of them. I mean, he can get it at the bucket, he can get it in the mid range, he can get it at the 3-point line. He can facilitate if you need him to. So Heron's going to be a load again.
Well, Tyrese Lukens is one of those guys that you can put him on that list of EHT players that feels like he's been playing in the EHT for about 15 years. I mean, he's been a 4-year starter. And, Travis, we've seen the Tigers play at DuQuoin as well as the tournament. Carmi has ran into them a couple of times over the last couple of years, and he can single-handedly take over ball games.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 30+ against Carmi. It seems like every time you turn around, you're thinking, oh, you had a good half against him. You only held him to 14. Then he turns around this year and drops 11 or 12 in the 3rd, 4th quarter, ends up with 28 to 30. He's just one of those players where he can get hot real quick, and it can get away from him like a snowball effect.
Now, if you were to take the Heron teams from the past, I mean, last year they had a loaded roster. Of course, the Harrison kid who's now playing at SIC and a couple other sharpshooters around Lukens. But, I don't want to say this is the more beatable Heron team we've seen recently, but, it feels like this is kind of the end of that run of great players they've had with Lukens being a senior this year, I would think.
We say that about certain teams, and like Travis said, they just, like some of these other schools, they just reload. And, they're 7-1, and then as we said, they lost to Sparta by 2. And I'm thinking, how did Sparta beat them? Sparta didn't win. They didn't win the tournament.
They got second place. Lost to Murfreesboro
by about
Murfreesboro
30.
beat them by 50.
50 or whatever.
And that's where my thought was. Okay, Murfreesboro was really good, and then Heron goes to beat Murphy last night on the road.
Yep.
So. I will say I was skeptical at first, but I believe the Heron Tigers are worthy of that number 1 seed. And for the 4th straight year, they've got the target on their back here in the EHT. So the number 2 seed this year is the Carterville Lions. Now, they lost at home last night to Goreville. That was a final. I had it pulled up. Let me scroll back down. They lost to Goreville by a final of 58-47. So a 1A school, Goreville, defeating Carterville there. But their most notable win on the season I would say came earlier against Vienna, a 4-point win against Vienna earlier before the EHT seedings came out. And again, they're also one of those teams that no matter who they graduate, they're going to be right back in the mix of things.
Yeah, when you stop and think, they talk about Carterville. It says we got 4 of their 7 kids back have no varsity experience whatsoever. They got the Barrington kid averaged almost 14 a game. Hawkins about 10 points a game. Of course, that's the coach's son.
I was going to say another Hawkins kid.
Yeah, another one. And he'll probably step up. And they lost to, as you said, they lost to Heron, they lost to Goreville, and
Steelville was the other one.
Yeah, Steelville was the other one. So they're coming in this tournament 4-3, but they've got, I think, to make up for something last year. They were the number 1 seed, and they won their first game, lost the next 2, and the only number 1 seed I could find that never took home any hardware. And so they've got trying to atone for that from last year.
Yeah, they graduated a big class 2 years ago, and that was their really, really good class. And
won a regional with that
yeah,
class.
They won a regional. And then last year, they come in as the 1 seed, kind of underperformed. So I bet they got a little extra motivation to prove why they were the 1 seed last year and why they deserve the 2 seed this year.
Well, Carterville's biggest win, a win over the number 3 seed. That's the Vienna Eagles as they come into the tournament with a 6-2 record. They haven't played this week, I don't believe. Looks like they played today against Johnson City. Vienna is one of those teams where I swear they were due for a bit of a dive. I mean, they graduated their all-time leading scorer, all-time leading assist guy, and Owen Treat last year. And I thought, okay, Vienna is finally going to take a step back this year, a new head coach. But they have picked up right where they left off. They went 4-0, winning their own tournament, beating a top 5 seeded ranked team in 1A in Meridian. They beat Massac County finally, but a 4-point loss to Carterville was kind of really the only scrape on their schedule, and of course a 20-point loss to a really good Nashville team. But they've got some athletes. I've seen some film from them. A lot of guys back from that team last year, and they're one of those teams that I could see on the bottom part of the bracket. They've got a route to get to the championship, I think.
Well, they got a new coach from McCracken County, this Berlin Brower, Kentucky Hall of Fame coach. They've got the Webb kid is back, and another one, this Brian Stepp, he's about 6'5". He was injured last year, didn't get to play a whole lot, so they're learning a new program, they're learning a new system, and like you said, they're off to a good start, 6-2 already.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that are always going to have the athletes. They might not always have the same level of skill and talent, but they're always going to have the athletes. And they're taken to their new coach, and you can just see it. I kind of got to watch some of the film from the Meridian game, and you could see how well they responded to their coach at certain periods when it looked like Meridian was about to make a run. And Vienna is going to be a dangerous team. I don't care what level they are, like whether that's 7th or 8th grade level all the way up to the varsity level. They are a good basketball program.
The number 4 seed this year is the Harrisburg Bulldogs. They are 6-2 on the year. They got a big win last night against Massac County, 55-36. Another one of those teams we thought, okay, they're going to take a dip. They lost Cameron Andy, who was such an awesome basketball player, and they haven't missed a step. I mean, you look at their schedule, a 1-point loss to Goreville and an 8-point loss to a really good Benton team. I mean, Andy Fehrenbacher's got his guys playing some really good basketball.
Well, they struggled, as you said, there a little bit early, but they've come back, and they've won their last 3 in a row. Wins over Gallatin County, West Frankfort, and like you said, the 19-point win last night over Massac, and that's got to be encouraging to the Bulldogs.
Yeah, Harrisburg's one of those teams, again, they lose somebody like Cameron Andy, what you think would be a big loss, and he is. He was one of the best players in Southern Illinois last year, but they seem to step up in the vacancy of him. Like, they got a really good sophomore class and a really good freshman class. I know 2 years ago they were in the 8th grade in the SIJHSA state championship game and ended up losing, but they got really good young classes, but even the upperclassmen they have back have really stepped up, and you can see it in the record.
Yeah.
Well, one of Harrisburg's best players this year is a transfer from Carrier Mills. Somebody we recall, Jelon Ellis, played for the Wildcats the last couple of years. He's now in Harrisburg, and he's playing really well. So they've done what they can to replace Cameron Andy, and it's working out pretty well with an impressive 6-2 start. They are the 4 seed in this year's EHT. The team they beat last night, the 5 seed Massac County Patriots, they're off to kind of a rough start this year, 2-6 on the season. And if you look at their schedule, not really a signature win, but I think you can maybe say a signature loss. Only a 5-point loss to a really good Murfreesboro team. They've beaten El Dorado and Carrier Mills. Lost to Meridian by 22 in their first game of the season. Lost to Vienna by 15. So, you can't not seed Massac County because they're so successful, and you can only take that river-to-river competition for so much compared to some of the teams they might see here. But you always know Joe Hossman is going to get these guys ready to play, and they always seem to sometimes overachieve in this tournament, it feels like.
Yeah, and of course playing Massac is kind of intimidating. I mean, when you look at Joe Hossman, he's been around since dirt.
It's your favorite. One of your favorite sayings.
He's over 850 wins, and I talked to him at the seating meeting. He said that just means you've been around a long time. He's got a couple of kids back, but not counting the COVID year, out of the last 13 years, Massac's won hardware. They brought home some kind of trophy, and like you say, the tough schedule that they have at the beginning, but Massac is going to intimidate some schools simply because of that and the leadership of Joe Hossman. And they lost 2,000-point scorers last year, and Harmon and his own son, and that kind of puts a dent in your tally.
I mean, the air of his presence on the sideline alone gives some teams some fear. And I know they got a couple guys back. Is it Will Harmon was the older brother, and Jude Harmon's the younger brother. He was a good player last year, and he's stepped in kind of in a starting role. And then you got the Garnett kid. So they got some pieces back from last year's team. They don't really have the talent they did last year, losing out on 2,000-point scores, but they're still going to compete. Oh, yeah. They're still well coached, and they're still going to get their X's and O's right every single game. So again, they're going to be a tough out.
Yeah, especially you want that tough schedule. Kind of not that tough, but it's going to make them stronger come postseason.
That's the Massac County Patriots. They are the 5 seed. The 6 seed is the Carmi White County Bulldogs. They've kind of had a rocky last couple of games. They are 4-4. They lost their second straight game last night on the road, losing at Hamilton County. Obviously, the biggest thing with this Bulldog team is they're playing without Gavin Holloman, their 4-year starter as a point guard. Kevin Wolf thinks he'll be able to play next week. At what limit, we don't know. But Travis, we both know from watching this team. Roger, you saw him for a couple of games. Totally different team with and without Holloman.
I go back to the game that Travis and I did. They played Heron, and it was like a 2-point ball game with about 4 minutes to go, and Holloman had 25 or something like that, and he went out, and of course it took kind of wind out of Carmi's sails, and he never got beat 7 or something like that. But he is a key factor.
Yeah, he's going to be a future 1,000-point scorer as long as he, knock on wood, can get back right from this hamstring injury. 4-year starter, and I mean he's the point guard. He's got to get everybody settled into the right spots, and you can just tell over the last couple games Carmi's played that they just don't look comfortable on offense without him. And Mitchell Edwards is already going to get enough attention as it is. Now he's getting 3 or 4 bodies at once. He's getting 5 sets of eyes on him at all times. At least with Gavin out there, you have another guy that they got to pull and divert attention away from, and it kind of settles everyone back into their roles. So hopefully Gavin can come back, get to play a little bit in the EHT, and hopefully he's not really on a minutes restriction, but you got to be careful because you would rather have him for postseason than right now.
Well, you mentioned Mitchell Edwards. He scored 47 points in a game earlier this season. They're at the Duke Coin Tip-Off Classic. But you're right, without Holloman, teams are definitely going to focus on Edwards, and we've seen that over the last couple of weeks. But with or without Holloman, there's no question, whether it's El Dorado, who they see in the first game, or maybe a second-round matchup with Vienna or Gallatin County, whatever it may be, teams are going to try to find a way to shut down Mitchell Edwards.
Well, I saw it in the Caro game. The Millhorn kid really stepped up. He had 18. And the Sauls kid stepped in, Beckhoff stepped in. Somebody's trying to fill the gap, but I mean, you lose a kid like Holloman. I mean, you've lost a lot.
It's hard to replace. It's hard to replace a guy that's averaging 17 points a game.
Yeah.
Now, again, Mitchell's going to see every type of defensive match. Little boxing one we saw last week against Flora. They might go zone. Every time he catches the ball in the low post, there's 2 or 3 bodies like instantly on his hip, instantly on his back. So, again, Carmi's going to have to figure out a way to kind of navigate that. But with Gavin coming back, hopefully that can alleviate some of that pressure off Mitchell.
So the Bulldogs of Carmi White County, they are the 6th seed. The 7th seed, another Black Diamond Conference team, that's the Fairfield Mules. They are 5-4 on the year. They took down a state-ranked Casey Westfield team last night. That one by a final score of 49-45. So they're playing some good basketball. They had a close loss against Hamilton County earlier this week. But Scott McElravy, He's always got his kids playing well. Does bring back a couple of good players from last year, even though we graduated a lot. Fairfield's one of those teams that I think that could sneakily make a run in this tournament. I think.
Yeah, this is Coach Mac's 20th year, so he's been around quite a while. He's got Justice Dagg, Jake Easton coming back. 4 seniors, he said, from the junior varsity moving up, and he lost a 6'5" transfer. If I can find him.
The Maynard's kid.
Yeah, the Maynard's kid, yeah. You lose 6'4" kid, you're going, oh, okay. But they're, like I say, they're hanging in. They're coming in 5-4 and knocked off Casey and lost a tough one to Hamco.
Yeah, it's always weird for Fairfield because their early season schedule is so tough. They play such great in the Capital Classic. They play such good non-conference games that their schedule is always deceiving. And Coach McElravy is always going to, have his bunch ready to go, and they're always going to overachieve no matter what they are. Even if they're the most talented team, they're going to overachieve somehow because that's just the type of coach he is. I mean, they're bringing back Justice Dagg, the Easton kid. Those guys have basically started the last 2 or 3 years, and Dagg's a really good point guard. He's one of those guys that fit in that category of, man, he's been here for 10 years, it felt like. I mean, when you see a guy 3 or 4 years
he's a Dagg, and the Daggs,
yeah.
I don't know if they're brothers or cousins, but there was Daggs when we played, so it feels like every Fairfield team in the last 20 years has had a Dagg playing for him.
Yeah, it's just one of those Fairfield names, and he's a good point guard. He gets people where they're supposed to be, and he's a good scorer when he needs to be. So, again, Scott McElravy's going to have his bunch ready to go, and they're going to be a tough out.
So the Mules are the 7th seed. The final seeded team is a team that I would say probably was probably upset with their ranking. The 8th seeded Hamilton County Foxes. This week alone, they've taken down 2 teams seeded higher than them. The 7th seed Fairfield Mules beat them on Tuesday, and then took down the 6th seed Bulldogs of CWC last night. I mean, Roger, I know you've seen this team more than me and Travis have, but just from last night, I was so impressed. They were down 11 in the first half, down 9 in the second half, and came back to beat the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I guess what you call those kids have a lot of grit. Last year, Coach Miller played about a line change. He'd run them in and out. Now, he had 4 starters that graduated, but he's got a lot of experience coming back. He's got a couple of shooters, and Leakey and Kessler, Caleb Carson inside 6'3", and can jump out of the gym. And you're doing all that line changing last year. These kids got a lot of experience, and their JVs only lost 2 games last year, so they know how to win.
Yeah, they got a nice bunch of athletes right now, and in their basketball program. The Braxton Miller kid, really good point guard, can whip a pass, like give you a haircut with one. And you got the Kessler kid, Leakey can shoot it. Caleb Carson, another kid that's felt like he's been around for 5 years plus. I mean, he's been a starter since his sophomore year, getting the heavy minutes at the very least. So again, they got a lot of talent. Coach Doug Miller, really good coach, and he'll have them ready to play.
Picked up his 300th win earlier this season. Did Doug Miller, and I believe with the win last night, he's at 99 in his tenure at Hamilton County. So he's looking to get win number 100 with the Foxes tonight, actually. They play El Dorado tonight. That's their final game before they go into the tournament. So, at El Dorado. So that is our top 8 seeds in this year's tournament. Heron 1, Carterville 2, Vienna 3, Harrisburg 4, Massac County 5, Carmi 6, Fairfield 7, and Hamilton County 8. We'll take our first break of the morning. We come back. We will look at those teams that were seeded 9 through 16 and start looking ahead at some of the matchups scheduled for next Thursday. This is a 2024 El Dorado Holiday Tournament preview show on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROY, and AM 1460. Welcome back to the 2024 El Dorado Holiday Tournament preview show here on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROY, and AM 1460 as we get set for 3 straight days of basketball. All 26 games will be live on WRUL and the WRUL Sports YouTube channel. We are excited to bring them to you. Cole Carter, Roger Hobbs, and Travis Black with you. Haley Winkleman across the hallway getting us on the air. So we ran through the 8 seeded teams and now looking at the quote-unquote 9 through 16 are the non-seeded teams for next week's tournament. And I guess if you want to start off with the quote-unquote 9 seed, that will be the Anna Jonesboro Wildcats. They will take on Hamilton County in the first round. They are 3-5 on the year. Bit of a rocky start for them. A tough 40-point loss last night against Benton. I know that they lost a lot from last year, including a 1,000-point score.
Yeah, they graduated their top 4. They got Taj Hodges back, Aiden McFadden, so they're basically a young team. And, the start of the season kind of looked optimistic as they played Nashville. They lost to Nashville only by 12.
Yeah.
And Nashville turned around and hammered Vienna by 20.
Yeah.
And so it's just, he's a young team, and they're just kind of learning the ropes. When you go from JV to varsity, it's like jumping from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, not a whole lot of varsity experience coming back, but I think Coach Shamus will have them ready to play.
Oh, yeah.
So the next unseeded team, that is the West Frankfort Redbirds. They are taking on the 7-seed Fairfield there on that first game of the season. And West Frankfort it felt like a powerhouse for so many years, especially in this tournament, always upsetting teams because, much like this year, they go into the tournament with an under 500 record, but they're also playing the Bentons of the world and the River to River schools of the world, but they've kind of switched up their non-conference schedule. They play in that Hamilton County invite. Roger, I know you got to see them a little bit,
yeah.
But a win over Gallatin County, a win over Wayne City, Christopher. That's all they've got this year. Bit of a rough start for them.
Well, they've lost 4 in a row, and but I mean, if you're going to get beat, you're going to get beat. They lost to Pinckneyville by 35, lost to Harrisburg by 22, lost to Goreville by 19, and then lost to Nashville by 30. So either the competition is really good or they're really struggling. They graduated 3. They got the Tyson kid back from last year. This Quentin Osborne, 6'2" kid, had a really good ball game. He had 26 against Hamco in that Hamilton County Invitational.
Yeah, West Frankfort's kind of struggled to start the year. I mean, their record in that tournament speaks for itself, and it's kind of exacerbated when you have to step up to that river-to-river. You like that word?
I like that word. I don't know what it means.
Yeah, yeah.
He's a
use
teacher,
that, use that. Yeah, you can use that for Scrabble,
Okay.
But when you make that jump to river competition,
Wow,
it is
tough.
tough to make that leap. So again, West Frankfort is kind of like a wild card the last couple of years. There was a couple of years where they were really, really good. Mm-hmm. Last couple they've kind of struggled, but they're still going to put up a fight. They're still going to go all out. So again, you never really know. They could make a surprise run.
Well, the next unseeded team taking on the Bulldogs of Carmi, that is the El Dorado Eagles. They are 3-6 on the season. They are, of course, the home team in this tournament. And, use whatever term, description that you want to describe what their life has been for the last 12 months since this tournament. Obviously, a whole new coaching staff. Wes McCoy is now at the helm. But they do bring back some good athletes from the guys that stayed on the team last year. Even some players came back to the team this year. They're 3-6 with wins over Pope County, Gallatin County, and Carrier Mills. They battled with Fairfield earlier or last Friday. A tough loss last night, though, on the road against Flora. I think the biggest thing for El Dorado is Jake Phelps. I know he's battled back from an injury. I know he did get hurt in the Gallatin County game, but I believe he came back. Not sure if he played last night, but he's one of those guys that if he gets hot from beyond the arc, he can put 40 points on you like he did to one team last year.
Yeah, he's a 3-year starter. And, you wonder about some of these coaches, like the schedules, how tough it is. And you look at El Dorado, and you said they are 3-6. They opened up Meridian, Vienna, Weber, and Massac.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yeah.
Why? But you want to play the tougher schedule. It's going to make you stronger down the road. But boy, you just hate to start out like that. And they got off to a slow start. But again, new coach, new system, and El Dorado, there'll be a handful before it's all over.
Yeah, they always put up a good fight in this tournament. And with the Phelps was out early in the year from that injury from football, right. Kind of come back, and I think they're still trying to test the waters with him, get him reintegrated. But he's one of those kids that if he gets hot, he can take over a game.
Yeah.
I mean, he can put up 40 very easily. So again, if you're Carmi, you can't let him get hot from 3. But they also got some other nice players, the Grathler kid, and a couple others. So they're going to be a handful, and they're going to be one of those teams that you're going to be like looking at maybe an upset alert.
Is the Oglesby kid? Is he playing this year?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. He's a senior playing as
All
well.
right, because he was injured a little bit last year.
Yes.
Didn't get to play a whole
Yeah,
lot.
he's
so
been dealing with some injuries. He's back, and like I said, if Phelps is playing, they're kind of back to full health. And like Travis said, he didn't play the first month or so of the season, so I think getting him back to full strength, this team, whether it's next week or later on in the season, they'll be back to kind of where they want to be. I think so. The next unseeded team we are focusing on, the NCOE Fighting Cardinals. They're off to a 3-8 start, a tough last-second loss against Hardin County last night at home. But, me and Travis saw them play last week against Carmi. Roger, I'm sure you've seen them play a couple of times this year. They're a scrappy ball club, and Jordan Johnson always gets his players to play hard no matter if they're undefeated or they haven't won a game yet this year. But they got a tough draw against a Massac County team, but you never know. We saw this team almost pull off the upset against Carmi last year in the tournament. I think if they can come out and play well and hit their shots, they could be right in this thing.
Yeah, they started out. I was talking with Coach Johnson's dad at the ball game. He said, you want to start a tough schedule, but come on. They opened up with 3 Black Diamond schools, 1 River to River school, and unbeaten Waltonville.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to get their feet on the ground. Only 1 senior on the roster. Starts all 5 juniors, and I think he started 4 of those last year as sophomores. They got the Simmons kids averaging about 14 a game, and he's going to be their key inside. And they've got Javen Garrett plays outside. He runs a show. Last year averaged about 13 a game, but they've got some kids that can light you up.
Yeah, and they got a little bit of size to their lineup too. You got the Simmons kid, you got the Russell kid, you got Graves, and then Sexton's not the tallest, about 5'11", but he is built really well. And then the Garrett kid is running the show up the point, can really shoot it. They got a little shooting, they got a little size. So again, I think they match up well with a lot of teams with that balance of shooting and size.
Yeah, Sexton, I think last night hit 5 threes against Hardin County. And so, like you said, they've got some kids that can light it up, and it's one of those when you're on, and when you're off, and you just got to hope you show up and be ready to go. But I don't think they'll back down.
Our next team is, I would argue, the best unseeded team, the Edwards County Lions. They're off to a 9-3 start. They've won, 6 games in a row. They're playing for that championship game in that Wayne City tournament tonight. Of course, they're playing a 1A schedule with a couple of 2A teams sprinkled in there. But Roger, that was one team that you mentioned to me before the show that you're excited to see them play, and they got a tough matchup playing Harrisburg in the first round. But this is a team that if they happen to lose to Harrisburg, I'm penciling them in for a consolation championship. I think
they're going to be there again. They got 4 starters back. They lost to Rhodes kid, who was their leading scorer, and you said they won 6 in a row. And one of the things that impressed me in that Wayne City tournament, they beat a good Weber team, 50-48.
Yeah.
And Weber's one, I think, destroyed
top 15 1A school right now.
Yeah.
So, they got a couple guys back. I know Cash Connor's back. The Duncan kid's back. Yep. So, they're a load. They're a handful. And those guys have got plenty of varsity experience because they were getting varsity experience as freshmen. So, and they got a lot of juniors. And I think they're going to be the team to watch for either a consolation championship or the first upset, the first round.
I like this Carter kid. He's just a junior, too, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, Edwards County, that was one team talking to Kevin Wolf before the season, who's the conference team kind of under the radar that could be good that nobody expects, and he, no hesitation, was Edwards County. So I do think if you were to reseed the whole tournament, they might find themselves in the top 8. I definitely don't think they would be, what would that be, 13 if you're playing the 4 seed. I don't think that's fair to them, and they're probably coming to this thing saying, hey, we deserve better, and who knows, they could give Harrisburg a run for their money. I just think Harrisburg's playing some really good ball right now.
And the NCAA, which when they have the playoffs at the end of the year, which team usually knocks off a team ahead of them? Trivia.
What do you mean by
In other words,
that?
you got them
The
seeded.
matchup.
The matchups.
I would say, since you're saying it on this one, 4 and 13.
Yeah, so many times the 13th
Gotcha.
seed is beaten.
I didn't know what you
14th.
meant by that. Gotcha. Yes.
I didn't
yes.
explain it very well.
The next team is the Gallatin County Hawks. They're off to a 2-8 start. Lost to El Dorado earlier this week. They don't play again until the tournament in the first round. They played an 8:30 game on night 1 against the 3-seed Vienna. They're another team that's just kind of in a rebuild mode, a brand new head coach, or I shouldn't say brand new, but a new head coach that's familiar with the school and the system, Matt Lawler. And Roger, I know you know Matt very well. I got to know him last year working in Gallatin County. Great guy and a great coach, but graduated a big senior class. I think 7 seniors last year for Gallatin County. Their 2 wins this year against Wayne City and Crab Orchard, which was a big 78-75 win for them. But just a team trying to figure things out early parts of the season.
Yeah, and Matt and I are good friends, and he's been in the system for a long, long time. He had the girls' high school. He won a regional with them. Took the boys' junior high to a 4th place state. But you look at his starters. Well, he's starting 5 seniors.
Yep.
Well, that 4 of them were JV players last year, and he graduated. All those good kids. He's got Grant Jackson back. He's a 4-year starter. Grant's really not big, about 6'1", but he can do it all. He can post up. He can shoot the 3. He can take you to the house.
Yeah, and he's one of those players that he's going to be an all-tournament team candidate this year, I think, and he's got all the skills you want, and he's got the leadership. He kind of runs the show at the point guard position. So Gallatin County I think they'll be a tough out. I think their early season record really doesn't reflect the team that they are.
You mentioned Grant Jackson. I would make the argument, aside of Kyrese Lukens, he is the best one-on-one player in this tournament. I mean, you give him the ball, isolation, one-on-one, he can pull up, he can step back and get to the bucket. He's a really good player. I'm not sure if he's got the 1,000-point mark yet in his career. If he hasn't, he's going to get it by the end of the season.
I think so.
And he's one of those guys that, Gallatin County, let's say if they don't beat Vienna, or even if they could, if Grant Jackson can get going, I mean, he can take this team far.
Yeah, he's a load.
Our next unseeded team, we got 2 more left. The quote-unquote 15 seed, that is Hardin County. The Cougars are 4-5 on the season. They've won 4 straight games. They started off 0-5. They won 4 in a row, including that 1-point win over NCOE last night. Roger, these 1A schools, the GEC schools, you never really know what to expect, just given the fact that they don't see a lot of bigger competition. They do play in that Goreville tournament early in the season. A 10-point loss to AJ, lost to Benton by 30+, lost to Harrisburg by 30+, lost to Goreville by 40+, and then losing to Harrisburg again. So, they had a rough go early, but they're playing better basketball.
That's one of those, again, when you look at that schedule, I'm going, why? But they opened up that Goreville tournament, you said, and they went over, but they've come back, no seniors on the roster. They won their last 4 in a row. A couple of squeakers, they beat NCOE last night by 2, and then earlier in the week, they beat Galatia by 2. So when it comes down to nitty-gritty time, they're not going to back off. If they're close to you in the ball game, they're going to come back and beat you.
Yeah, that's, again, you really can't tell this early in the year by record because some teams have schedules like that open it up with, Benton, Harrisburg twice, Goreville, just basketball powerhouses. So, again, you really can't rely on record. You can't really do the sports math of, okay, they lost to this team, this one beat this team, so this team should beat this team. No, again, it's one of those clubs that if they're with you, like you said, they're going to be in the game, and they feel like they're in the game, they're going to fight you till the last buzzer sounds. In
Hardin County, they will play the 2 seed Carterville. That is the 3:15 game there on Thursday. The final team number 16, that is the Carrier Mills Wildcats, who picked up their first win of the season, second win over Pope County last night, 51-46. I'll be honest, it's been a while since I think Carrier Mills has won a game in this tournament. Just kind of a struggling program and a unique situation, but you can. Always interesting to see if they can pull off an upset at any point in this tournament.
Well, I really don't think tomorrow or Thursday morning will be the time.
I don't think so either.
But, they've won 6 games the last 2 years, and they went through coaching changes the last few years about as often as you change socks. And looking at last year's EHT roster, they had no sophomores, no seniors, and they had one kid that could play, this Ellis kid. He moved to Harrisburg. But they have picked up a couple of wins. And, Drake's been around the game quite a while, and if there's anything to get out of those kids, I know him that he'll come back. They'll play hard, but again, it's David and Goliath.
Yeah, they've been struggling the last 7-8 years probably. I mean, it's been a while since I've remembered a Carrier Mills team even being relatively close in a ball game. But again, it's a struggling program. They lose their best player from last year to Harrisburg. again, you never know, because again, it's 8:30 game. You're dealing with high school kids. Heron might not show up, and Carey Mills might. You never know. So again, I don't really see the upset happening. But again, you got to play the game to see.
But if they lose that first round game at 8:30, they come back at 10 o'clock, and then you could see a winnable game against maybe Anna Jonesboro. So you never know. But it has just been a rough go for the Wildcats over the last 10 or so years in this tournament. All right, so we'll go ahead and step aside for a short break. We come back, we will take a look at the bracket itself, and we'll do some predictions and maybe even some EHT trivia here on our 2024 El Dorado Holiday Tournament Preview Show. Here on 97.3 WRUL, 93.3 WROY, AM 1460, and also online worldwide at WRUL.com, getting you ready for 3 days of basketball. 26 games in 3 days. The 60th annual EHT tips off next Thursday, the 26th at 8:30, which will bring us into looking up and down the bracket. Game number one, the number one seed Heron Tigers against Carrier Mills. And I'll just kind of go through and if we think, because the first day you really don't get a whole lot of upsets. You might get one a year, but looking up and down the bracket. Heron and Carrier Mills at 8:30, Hamilton County and Anna Jonesboro at 10, Harrisburg, Edwards County at 11:30, and Massac, Norris City at 1:45. In those first four games, the only game that I think could maybe be an upset, if Hamilton County comes out and doesn't play well early in the morning, I could see AJ, if they hit some shots, making that a game. But the Foxes really impressed me last night. I think they win that game. I think Heron defeats Carrier Mills. And I think Edwards County can keep things close with Harrisburg that 11:30 game on Thursday.
I'm with you 100%. I agree with it. Heron, Carey Mills, that's going to be ugly, bless their hearts. Hamco AJ.
Get it over quickly.
Yeah. Hamco AJ, you got to go with the Foxes. And I think Edwards County, if they're on. But then you look at Harrisburg, they won about 4 in a row.
Yeah.
So, but Edwards County's won 6 in a row, so it'll be a good matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Heron against Carey Mills. I think Hamco takes the AJ game. The Edwards County game might be the first one I want to go with the upset, but I'm just going to stick with the Bulldogs. And I think Harrisburg is. I think they're too athletic for the Edwards County Lions. I think not to say that Edwards County's not, but I think Harrisburg plays a different type of style than Edwards County wants to.
And tougher competition,
yeah.
too.
Yes.
Every year we have that one game on the first round that you say, okay, the loser of this game is going to win the consolation. I think that's that 11:30 game. Harrisburg, Edwards County, if Harrisburg gets upset, I think they still go on and win the consolation. If Edwards County loses, I think looking at the teams that they could see on the left side of the bracket, I think they go on and win the consolation. Yeah. Massac County and NCOE, I think could maybe be an interesting game if the Cardinals play well. Mm-hmm. They're always going to play hard. I would assume Massac County is applying full court pressure, and that could give the Cardinals some fits. Right. But, 2 games record-wise, the Cardinals have the better record, but we mentioned the Patriots playing the tough schedule they do. So that one could be intriguing there, the 1:45 game on Thursday. Then at 3:15, the 2-seed Carterville, they take on Hardin County. Then at 4:45, the 7-seed Fairfield taking on West Frankfort. At 7 o'clock, it's Carmi, the 6-seed, against El Dorado. And then at 8:30, it's Vienna, the 3-seed, against Gallatin County. At 10 o'clock, the loser of the first 2 games will play in the Red Eye game, the first consolation bracket game. But, that bottom part of the bracket, El Dorado, they always play well in their own tournament. And I think if you're Carmi, that's one game that, man, you don't want to get upset by El Dorado in the EHT. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Again, El Dorado last night sneaked by, or got beat last night by Flora, got pretty bad. But then they beat Gallatin County a couple of days earlier before that, won by 5. And, with Carmi losing a tough one like they did, you go back, they lost to Flora by 4. They're hungry. And I would imagine Carmi would come back and get El Dorado in that ball game.
Yeah, and Carmi's, reintroducing Gavin Holloman to the mix probably next week if he does get cleared. So, and El Dorado, the Phelps kid just kind of got back, so they're trying to reintegrate him. So it's which team can get their point guard back into the lineup and get everything seamlessly first. But that one might be an upset alert, but I think Carmi is going to take the win.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a rundown of all the games on the first day, and like I said, first day you might get some blowouts and some running clocks in the second half, but I think if you look ahead to day 2 and day 3, that's where the fun happens. That's where you get some teams battling for a championship bid, for a Final Four bid, and even the consolation bracket. I feel like all the attention goes to the championship side of things, but you get some really entertaining games there on the consolation bracket as well, and that could be the same case again this year. So, in the years past, we've had everybody in here, go through their bracket like NCAA style. Not going to make anyone do that today because I do think there's some games that could be a toss-up, and then you get confusing, down the bottom, loser of game 19 and 20 play in this one, then you got to go to the bottom left, and then so we're just, point blank here. Like I mentioned, I think consolation winner is the loser of that Harrisburg-Edwards County game. I think Edwards County has every right to be kind of upset with how they got seeded. I would love to see them as the 9 seed playing Hamco, but then again, you can't really do anything about that. But that's my pick for the consolation winner. Do you two have any disagreements with that one, or anybody else you might want to throw on a mix?
Well, I don't see anybody really in that bottom bracket. I think the key, like you said, Edwards County, will be the Hamilton County AJ game.
Yeah.
If AJ would upset Hamilton County, I'd go with the Foxes. They played El Dorado, or they played Edwards County earlier this year and won over Edwards County in their own tournament. So, but I'm like you. I think the consolation champion will come out of the top bracket.
Yeah, I think so too. I think El Dorado will be the bottom. If El Dorado does lose to Karma, they'll be the bottom team out of into the consolation championship. But I think it will be determined by Harrisburg and Edwards County who will be the victor.
Yeah.
So as far as a champion, this is always the tough one. And we say every single year, it's wide open. Anybody can win this thing, and then Heron goes on to win 3 in a row. I do think Heron is the team to beat, and I think they're my champion. I think I picked them, and they're going to have to. They're either going to see. I think their side of the bracket, they could see Harrisburg in the semifinals. They could see a Massac, or they might see Hamco in the second round. That could be interesting, but I think they have the easier path to get to the championship compared to 2-seed Carterville or 3-seed Vienna on the bottom. But I think a Vienna Heron championship or Vienna Carterville championship would be interesting, but it's just so tough not to pick the Tigers with what they've done over the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's very interesting that this will be the first year in a couple of years that we haven't got Heron Massac in the championship game, and you're going to get that in the semifinal at the early or at all. But I really think it will be coming down to Heron and Vienna. I truly do. I don't think Carterville. I think Carterville has a tough time with Fairfield, and then I don't think they have the firepower that Vienna does. So I think it will come down to Heron and Vienna, and I'm going to pick the upset. I'm going to go with Vienna taking home the EHT crown.
Okay.
I tell you what, the last 2 years I went with Vienna. I knew they were going to do it, and they
That's
haven't.
a reasonable pick.
And so, I'm like you with Carterville, and I think it'll come down to Carterville and Vienna. And I was kind of looking, and Carterville led Heron at the half. And then somebody said they went into a bad slump there in the third quarter, turned it over like 5 times, and Heron came back and beat him. But then they got beat last night by Goreville by 11. Somebody had asked me last night at the NCOE game. I said, well, I kind of like Carterville, but I want to go with Vienna. But they've stung me twice, but third time's a charm. I'm like you. I'm going to see Vienna and Heron in a championship game.
I talked to our buddy Jacob Dobson, EHT super fan, this morning over at 103, and I said, who's your pick? And he went Carterville. He thinks Carterville's going to win it, but I'm with you guys. I think Vienna, given how their schedule has looked, I think I would choose them from the bottom part of the bracket. But I think as far as the top part, you're going to see Heron versus X team here. But
right.
I think whoever they do play would be an exciting game. And you mentioned Heron when they played Carterville making that run in the second half. That's what they do. I mean, you look at every game they play essentially. It's back and forth in the first half, and then they go on a 10-0 run in the third quarter or a 12-0 run and pull away, hit their free throws late. And so my next question for you guys was taking a pick at MVP. So it's always, the MVP goes to usually the winning team player. And I don't know if Kyrie Slukins has won the MVP yet. I think Kyrie Slukins brings home the MVP, and the Tigers are on the championship this year.
And you heard it first right here. Yeah, I wouldn't even go so far as to to name an MVP. But that's a good choice. And some of these teams I haven't seen, so
It's fun to predict.
If Vienna wins, I think Hunter Webb will probably be the MVP for them.
Yeah.
I mean, he is their their leading scorer. He's their slashing wing type guy. Can get up around the rim and throw it down with him. And I just think if Vienna takes home the crown, Hunter Webb will take the MVP. But I think Kyrus Lukens, has there ever been an MVP in a loss? Because I think if he would put up, 40 points like akin to like 10 years ago with Bahari Amaya against the from Harrisburg against Owensboro in that championship game, he had 40 and still lost by 3 or 4 points to eventual Owensboro team that took home state in Kentucky. So I think Kyrus Lukens could maybe slide an MVP if, depending on the situation, even if they don't win. But I think those two are probably good picks for the MVP.
All right, we got about 5 minutes here. Roger, I know you did some research, and this is your favorite week of the year.
I love this.
So you got some trivia questions for me and Travis. So let's see if you can stump us.
There have been 2 unranked teams in the past 60 years that have won the EHT. I'll give you a clue. One was in 1976. The other was 1997.
Yeah, I'm blank on both. As far as unranked teams, I don't know. I know that Fairfield won as an 8 seed one year.
That was my other trivia question.
I know we talked about that one before, but as far as unseeded, I got nothing.
Are you looking at my notes?
No, I'm not.
I'll give you 76. That was before your time. Was Meridian.
Meridian.
They won at 76. The other was 1997. That was before your time too.
I'm trying to think of who would have been ranked that year.
Carmine was
been
good.
Yeah.
North City was probably still good back then, 97. I don't know. I got nothing.
They don't go with this name anymore. Their name has been changed. Except for us old timers.
So would that be like a Massac County?
Would it be a county school?
Yeah. So
McLeansboro?
Metropolis?
No.
McLeansboro?
McLeansboro. Okay,
Hey.
gotcha.
They run right in McLeansboro.
Okay.
Oh, what player has been named 4 times? The only player to be named the all-tournament team 4 times.
Reed Jackson?
Nope.
There's only one player 4 times.
That I could find.
Tyler Smith-Peters?
Played for Christopher
No,
Christopher. Oh, God.
before your time.
No, I got nothing.
T.J. Wheeler,
T.J. Wheeler.
who was the first sophomore ever be named the all-tournament team.
Reed Jackson?
Reed Jackson.
Okay, because he was 3 times, right?
Yeah, he was
okay,
3.
3 times. That's what.
Who was the first, and this is before your time. Gosh, you guys are just pups.
90% of these questions are before our time,
Okay.
Roger.
I think I asked you this one earlier. When was the last 1A team to win the EHT?
So that was Meridian.
That was Meridian in
09.
09.
Yep.
And before that was
North City. Yeah.
COE 80-89. They beat, 3 years in a row, they beat Waltonville, Century, and Christopher. And who was the first team to win it 3 years in a row?
What? I mean,
Before your time.
Harrisburg.
Before your time.
Way before. Okay.
Oh, NCOE.
NCOE
Yeah.
Fighting Cardinals.
Yeah.
What team has won it 4 years in a row?
Harrisburg.
Harrisburg
did there in that early 2010s run they had.
And what is the only number 1 seeded team not to get any hardware? Did not take home a trophy. They were the number 1 seed.
Carterville last year.
Carterville
wasn't it?
last year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Carterville last year.
Okay. See, if you do
Yeah.
recent stuff, I'm pretty good. When you're there all day, 3 days in a row, you never a lot that
Yeah.
happens.
Who won the ball game last night? Carmine Hamco.
Hamco.
Oh, no. You're on that. Good. Proud of you.
Well, one way that I always love to end our preview show is going around the room and asking everyone favorite EHT memory. And we've all got plenty of them, whether it's playing days, coaching days, or broadcasting days. But Roger, I'll start with you. Any EHT memories that pop up, whether it's a favorite or a top 5 memory of this tournament?
Probably the 2 things. Probably the best game I've ever seen, high school, and I don't remember the years, mid-'90s, early '90s. Pinckneyville and Caro playing for the championship, went double overtime. And, I mean, you had 2 Hall of Fame coaches, and Dick Horn was at Pinckneyville and Bill Chumlers was at Caro. And, I mean, it was just, I wasn't doing the game, but I was sitting there. I'm glad I wasn't because I couldn't. And then a couple of years ago, West Frankfort was playing somebody, and whoever this team was, they went in, they fast break, and he was going to slam it. And a kid from West Frankfort named C.J. Johnson
Yeah.
pinned that sucker on the backboard. And those two memories really stand out.
Travis?
Again, I do like that 10 years ago, I mentioned it earlier, but the duel between Harrisburg and Owensboro was when they were on that run of 4 straight. And, they bring in Owensboro to seem like to take care of Harrisburg, and ends up being a nip and tuck game against a team that eventually won state in Kentucky and had 2 future, Division I athletes in Justin Miller for Owensboro and Eric Holman, who ended up getting some time in the NBA.
Yep.
And Bahari Amaya had like 45 points, and it was ended up being like a 4 or 5 point game at the end. And that was one of the best individual performances I've ever seen, where a kid just carried a team, because that was a very young Harrisburg team, not a lot of senior leadership outside of Bahari. I think it was Carson Batts. And you had a bunch of freshmen and sophomores playing with you, and that was one of the best performances I've just ever seen in high school basketball. How he carried his team through that game.
I think for me, and really no thinking about it, was the shot from Bryce Northcott. And what made that really cool was that was kind of the beginning of my broadcasting career. But it was also really cool because my best friends were on the court. Travis, Dylan Cordy made a great pass. Bryce Northcott, one of you guys' groomsmen in my wedding, and Bryce made the shot, and that was really cool. And I wish we could have went on to win some hardware that year, but that play to me just kind of signifies what is the EHT, full crowd, last second shots, exciting basketball, and that's what makes this tournament so exciting every single year.
And the crazy part about that was day one.
That was day one.
That was like first game of the afternoon session. I mean, it was crazy.
Well, hopefully we get some games like that. We had a couple of thrillers last year. Remember the double overtime game with Fairfield and Heron comes to mind, but we had some fun ones. Carmike came back to beat Harrisburg in that third place game, but hopefully we get some exciting ball games Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And again, you can watch and listen to all 26 games on radio at 97.3 WRUL, and you can watch them all on the WRUL Sports YouTube channel. Travis, Roger, and I will have some other friends joining on the fun. Jason Craig will be there. It's going to be a fun 3 days of basketball there in El Dorado. Well, Roger, Travis, appreciate you guys coming in this morning to break things down. Big thanks to Haley Winkleman across the hallway getting us on the air. My name is Cole Carter. Thanks for listening to our 2024 El Dorado Holiday Preview Tournament Show.